Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm of course your host Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys have a fantastic afternoon. It's Friday afternoon, probably on your way home from work. I'm already home. I'm enjoying my day. Hope you guys are doing the same. I have with me here today Mr. Bill Schuster. How you doing, Bill?
Armando. Hello, everyone. Doing well. Glad to be here. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is New Music Discovery Part 3 on Joe Jackson. And believe me, we're about to go off on a tangent like you would not bloody believe. We are going to be gone, I swear to God. But it's going to be enjoyable. So I will turn things over to Bill to discuss the albums that we were going to focus on for this episode. Take it away, Bill.
All right. Thank you, Armando. Uh, just a quick aside before I bring these up.
Of
I
course.
just wanted to briefly mention these two that I deliberately skipped over: Blaze of Glory from '89 and Laughter and Lust from '91.
Mm-hmm.
These are both excellent albums, but they're somewhat more traditional. So even though they're among my favorites and well recommended,
Yeah.
I skipped them over because I wanted something different. But
And different you did pick.
yes, I didn't want to get anybody out there thinking that those were not wonderful albums because I love them. But
Yeah.
first off, even though it's daytime right now, we're going to pretend it's not because we're going to be talking about a little night music. This just a quick background. People might think people that know Joe, he signed with the Sony Classical label in the '90s. This was not his first album with Sony Classical. This was still on Virgin Records.
That's right.
Uh, but it should have been his first Sony Classical album because it absolutely fits that vibe. Um, I will just briefly say that I still hold a grudge regarding your 3-star review that I believe was in Entertainment Weekly when this was released.
Really? Three?
Yes.
Get out of here.
Yes. Yeah. It was essentially considered a tuneless mess, no melodies or any. It's this guy listening to the same album I am, but well, all right. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to go too deep into it because I want to hear what Armando has to say about the album.
Um, well, I'm going to adjust my notes here because, guys, I'm old. I need notes to go by here. I'm going to just make an adjustment on it. Um, I have a lot to say, and here we go. First of all, I really want to thank Bill for giving me this album to listen to and these two albums to listen to. I swear to God, unbloody real. Okay. Um, First of all, Joe Jackson to me has always been an artist that never really, and I mean this in the in the best possible way, has never really fit in with what was going on musically at the time. Like he never really fit into a certain genre, like a just he was all over the place, right? And I think early on he sensed it, or early on he wanted to be that way, and he just went with that vibe and never conformed to one sort of musical type. Night music, for those of you who don't know, if you've been living in a cave for the last X amount of years, released in 1994 on Virgin, produced by Joe Jackson and Ed. How do you say his last name?
I've always just said Roinesdahl,
Roy
but I
Nostal.
could be absolutely wrong. I've never actually heard it pronounced.
Yeah, I don't even think maybe he has. And it's produced by Joe Jackson and Ed Roynesdahl. Um, Night music for me is just fantastic. Okay, it's a combination of instrumental pieces along with vocal tracks. How can I put this? It it's a cross between classical and adult contemporary, I call it. Starts off with those four musical movements, I call them nocturne 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're spread out throughout the album. Nocturne 1 starts off the album very symphonic, very dramatic, beautiful, melodic as all get out. um Flying comes next, track 2, amazing, melodic, again a lot of classical elements. I do hear him using what sounds like a harpsichord um in the production on it. Fantastic. um and it's got to be said for me, the it seems to be that there's the character in the on this album, on these tracks, is sort of basically taking stock on his life and sort of wondering what he's accomplished and what more can he accomplish before he finally does, you know, pass away. Like, he's facing mortality basically, as we all are, right? But he's sort of coming to that realization quicker than anyone else on this album. um Ever After comes next. You know, the one thing I noticed on this track is it's very there's a lot of space on this track in terms of the production, right? There's a lot of it's not jam packed with instrumentation, I should say. Okay. There's for me, I put nice use of panning, put the panning effect from the left to the right channel. uh Beautiful synth work on it. Uh Great can't even read my own notes, guys. Fantastic bass sequence on it, because guys, he uses a lot of keyboards and sampling equipment on this album. And it's got to be said, fantastic vocals on this track as well. And track number 4, Nocturne number 2, very atmospheric, very broad, very and I hear pan flute on this track, what might sound as pan flute. The next track, The Man Who Wrote Danny Boy, beautiful violin on this track, just dramatic, very with music with stabs on the piano when he comes in on the piano keys. Gorgeous piece of work. Nocturne number 3, which is track number 6. We're getting to the end there, folks. Beautiful use of clarinet. Very simple piano passage I found on this. Not overly heavy on the piano, but fantastic. Nice buildup of atmosphere with chords. Very dramatic. Sort of builds up, and then just stops, and then starts again, and that kind of feel. Lullaby is track 7, as I adjust my notes here. Sorry, guys. Beautiful piano medley on this track. Nice soprano vocal line, a very dramatic, a dramatic feel on the lead vocal. Nice use of flugelhorn. Who uses flugelhorn these days?
Chuck
Like, even
Mangione.
back in the 90s, right? Like, this is where the classical elements come in, guys. It's like it's a beautiful mesh of classical and, I call it, adult contemporary. Bill might think I'm bloody nuts, but there you go. I am nuts, right? Yeah, great flugelhorn. Nice use of accordion. He's fantastic with the accordion, and it's very melodic. Only the Future is next. Gorgeous flute, a lot of use of flute, and very melodic on this. Nice bass lines on this track too. And it's, to me, this track is very Celtic influenced, right? I don't know if you notice that. there is a bit of a Celtic influence on it. Nocturne number 4, which is track 9. Beautiful violin, nice melody, very atmospheric, symphonic, and I put gorgeous on the end of that. I mean, just amazing. And Sea of Secrets, track 10. Oh God, fantastic, fantastic. Not, my notes here, I have nice repetition of chord progression on the intro, just beautiful, very haunting for me. Again, haunting clarinet, beautiful instrument, beautiful instrumental passage up to the end, right? To me, he's saying in this on this track that he knows he's going to die. He's facing his mortality. He knows he's about to go, and he's welcoming it. He's not afraid to face what comes next, right? We should all be that way, right? but anyway, that's my take on this album. I think it's fantastic. Again, I thank you for giving me this album to listen to, and the next one coming up. But just mind blowing. I got to say though, I'll admit this: it's not for everybody.
No,
it's not for everybody. Okay, but as long as you're willing to open your mind and listen to something that's a bit left of center or right of center, but not just dead on center, then you're good to go. You know?
Yeah, this is absolutely not Look Sharp.
No, this is miles ahead or far off to the left or right of Look Sharp. But yeah, that's my take on this album.
All right, very nice review. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's well, I mean, the term underrated is used and overused, and yeah, some people just can't stand the use of the term at all. But I think this is one of those albums that absolutely fits. It's, well, if it's even rated at all, frankly. I mean, most people don't really know it exists. I think by this time, a lot of the commercial era Joe fans had already started falling off and were not aware when new albums came out. So I don't think a lot of people really found this at the time, and probably not a lot since. But the hardcore weirdos like me that have been following him for so many decades now, this was this was delightful. At first, it was kind of unexpected, as Joe tends to do frequently throughout his career. He likes to confuse his fans and make us question what the hell we're listening to when a new album comes out. And I that's one of the things I love about it. That's why he is such a great artist to me, because he keeps me guessing. And sometimes I don't like his new material immediately. Sometimes I'm disappointed in it. And I don't really remember. I don't think that was the case with this. I was mildly disappointed at the time because I like him so much as a lyricist and a singer. I think I wanted more vocal tracks, but now I wouldn't change a note of this after this. I think I've listened to this album as my bedtime music as much as anything over the last 30 years. It really is my favorite way to listen to this, is to turn the lights out and just lay in bed in a dark room, kick back, and just let the music fill the room and just get lost in it. It's great for that. But unfortunately, that also means I've probably heard Up Till About the Man Who Wrote Danny Boy 3 or 4 times as much as I've heard the second half of the album, because eventually, if I'm too tired while I'm listening to it in bed, I'll be passed out. That's not to sell the second half of the album short. I love it also. Just realistically, that's what happens sometimes with ones that are used for bedtime music.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I know I want to ask you this. I was going to ask you, do you think that he's discovered new melodies, like in terms of like, because to me, even like with this album, it just seems like he's thinking outside the box in terms of how to write a melody or a chord progression.
Maybe that's why that reviewer thought it had no melody.
Yeah,
Maybe the reviewer didn't have his ears open well enough to pick up on those particular melodies. I don't know. You might be onto something there.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think
that's a good point.
for me, I think he sort of took the rule book of what melodies are supposed to be, like how to write a melody, and just like threw it out the window, right? Or just burn the fucking thing and just like, you know what, I'm gonna do it my own way. Because just a little side note, I remember watching an interview with David Bowie when he said that when he was working on those three trilogy albums with Eno, that they just bought they each bought themselves a new synthesizer, right? And you know how these how he goes, these ridiculous machines, right, come with these, pre-programmed sounds that people think you want to hear, right? And he said all they did was they took the manuals and threw them out the window and just started playing with different chord progressions and like different things. Like they didn't follow the rules. So I just kind of think that maybe he was doing the same thing, following that line of thought, right? Because this is nothing like you would have heard on the radio in '94.
Oh no,
Do you know,
I
like,
can't imagine any of
nothing?
these.
No, no. If you think, guys, if you buy this album and you think you're listening to Stepping Out, you're wrong. I'm telling you right now, this ain't no bloody Stepping Out. This is,
No,
I'm
it
not
is not.
saying, I'm not saying it's better, but it's just as good. That, you know what I mean? It's right up there, you know. So,
I think
but
it's a beautiful album. The no matter where those melodies came from or how unique they may have been, that I think they are all just lovely. It's just it's a dark album, but it's a comforting darkness. Like you mentioned about Sea of Secrets, it's like facing death, but being okay with it, being prepared. And that's kind of the vibe here. It's like you look at the lyrics to Flying, which I didn't appreciate as much when I was in my 20s as opposed to now when I'm in my 50s. The older I get, the more stupid I feel. I don't know what's going on. And the end of the song, I love the
yeah,
tired of trying to belong when I could be flying. I think that's just such a wonderful sentiment. Just be yourself, be free. Don't worry about all these people and all these groups, and just live your life and enjoy what you enjoy. Just yeah, fly.
wanting to break out of the box
Yeah.
and not conform.
Um, yeah, that's a powerful message, I think. And I did also want to point out that, well, once you get past the original Joe Jackson band, those four guys that made the first three albums, uh, one thing that's cool about Joe that I've always liked is he works with a lot of women. There are a lot of women in his various touring bands and studio bands, and not just singers, which is common someplace. Somebody will go get a woman and say, do backup vocals. No, these like on here, you're talking. You got women playing viola, violin, cello. I mean, they're all over the place, and as well as vocals too. But and it's also very much true on the next album we're going to talk about here, even more so. In fact, that is
Exactly.
other than Joe and what one or two other people, one or two other guys, it's all women, which I
Yeah.
think is pretty cool. He's carried that throughout most of his career.
Yeah, I think he has a I think he has an an undeniable respect for women in terms of musicians and, you know, you're right. Most of these artists, or a good amount of them, have like women as backup singers. They're sort of relegated to the backup singer position, right? And don't come out of your little square until after the show, kind of a thing, right? Whereas Joe Jackson um, uses a lot of female musicians in on his album. So yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. Let me ask you this quick question:
Okay.
if this album was released today, given proper promotion, proper push by whatever record company, say, okay, let's say Sony Classics, do you
Okay.
think this album would have fared better today than in 1994?
Absolutely not. I wish I could say yes, but uh,
Yeah,
I think whatever
I agree.
it got at the time, uh, Joe was still just a few years past his commercial heyday at this point. Now he's a few decades past. So I think whatever sales he did get on this initially, a lot of that was his name recognition and his fans. And I'm not sure how many of those same fans are still around 3 decades later that would automatically pick up a new Joe Jackson album. And I can't imagine there's a lot of people that don't know him that would be like, hey, let's try this new album by this guy we've never heard of. I don't know. It just, yeah, I really don't think it would do any better, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna go on a limb here and out on a limb and say, with this album, to me, he created a new genre.
What would you call the genre?
Holy shit.
You said earlier it was like a combo of classical and adult contemporary.
It's a hybrid between classical and adult contemporary. It's I'll call it Joe Jackson.
Yeah, there you go. That is pretty well it. I'll quote the Duke,
Yeah.
Duke Ellington, as I love to do, his famous phrase that he used so often throughout his career: beyond category. Joe absolutely fits that description.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when you see those, when you see something labeled and something, something plus, like, greatest hits plus, he is the plus
Yeah,
in whatever category you want to name, he is the plus. It's like, R&B plus or adult contemporary plus or rock, he is the plus in whatever category you want to label, because this album really doesn't fit in any. Yes, it's a hybrid between adult contemporary and classical, because the classical influences are there no matter what, like right away. They are there. But again, it just seems to me he's redefined the genre. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of, again, maybe not so much the classical, but in terms of adult contemporary, it's almost like he's rediscovered or discovered new melodies to come up with, and just say, okay, you think you've heard everything? Take this and see what you can do with it. You know what? Thank you, Mr. Joe Jackson. I swear to God, like, unbloody believable, like
and
unreal.
yet it still sounds like Joe Jackson. I guess
Yes.
my ear is. I've been listening to him so much that my ear can. Like, well, I mentioned to you before that I can pick up his sounds. Like I'll hear him play piano notes. Yeah, that's Joe Jackson. That's very
Yeah.
much his sound.
Yeah. Because he has a very distinctive sound, even on the piano. Like, what I've heard, he does a lot of, like, I call them stabs, like dramatic stabs, like, chord stabs on the piano, right? Very pronounced, very, you know, intentional, but and very unexpected too when it happens, right? So that's enough of my blathering on, whatever. But that is album number one, ladies and gentlemen, in our yes.
Yeah.
Yes, night music. If you quick question, I'm going to throw a little curveball at you here.
All right.
If you were to give this, because David Bodis and I were talking yesterday about giving albums rankings out of 10 or whatever. If you were to give this a ranking out of 10, what would you give it?
Oh wow. Ah, I've been saying forever. I would like to give lower rankings to things when I do these kind of shows, but
Yeah.
but I love this album too much. This is a part of me. I mean, I have to give it a 10. I don't know objectively I can say that, but I don't care if it's objective or not. Subjectively, this is absolutely a 10 for me.
Yeah.
I have a strong emotional connection to it.
Yeah. I can see why. I can see why. I give it a 10 out of 10.
Nice.
I really do. Like I can't thank you enough for introducing this to me. I swear to God. It's unreal. It's unreal. And guys, I have a bit of allergy issue going on. That's why I rub my nose. So you know what I mean. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm itchy all over the today. So it is the way.
last time we did one of these, I had that, and it turned out to be early stages of COVID. Are you sure? Yeah,
Okay,
I
you know
swear
what?
you can't catch it through the internet, so it wasn't me.
Okay, you know what, Bill? You're powerful and you do have an influence on me, but not that much of an influence on me. Okay, there are limits. Okay, so um um anyways. By the way, how are you feeling?
Much better, much better.
Good.
The day after we did those previous Joe Jackson episodes, I was fairly miserable, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
know. I
I'm
know.
pretty well back to normal at this point.
Yeah, no, that's good. I was worried about you. That's why I was checking in on you. Okay, guys. Um, the next album that we're going to talk about is one called Heaven and Hell. No, not the Black Sabbath. This Heaven and Hell. At this point, he had left Virgin Records due to the dissatisfaction of promotion for the album and moved to Sony Classics. Okay. The basis of this album is musical interpretations of the Seven Deadly Sins. And when I tell you that this album, for me in particular, was an experience, it was an experience. Okay. So much so that my copy of this album is arriving tomorrow, courtesy of Amazon.ca. Take it away, Mr. Schuster.
um, this one, technically, this album is credited to Joe Jackson and friends
Yes.
because he does have guest stars. There are 6 people that are listed under the featuring that I guess these are the 6 friends. And as I alluded to earlier, well, 5 of the 6 are women. There's Joy Askew, who has appeared on plenty of Joe's previous albums, Brad Roberts, Jane Siberry. Uh, I hope she forgives my pronunciation if I screw this up. Nadja Salerno Sonnenberg, Dawn Upshaw,
Easy for
and
you to say.
Suzanne Vega. Yeah.
Suzanne Vega, yeah.
But,
And
yeah, they
just
all play important roles.
yeah, just a quick note: Brad Roberts from Canadian band Crash Test Dummies. It was signed to Arista. Um, Jane Siberry, another Canadian artist, fantastic, prolific songwriter, fantastic vocalist, very underrated. Both of these artists are very underrated, in my very humble opinion. Being a Canadian myself,
I knew you'd appreciate the Canadian content on here.
yeah, yeah. And just a quick note, Jane Siberry, if you guys really want to dive into an artist that kind of thinks outside the box, check out Gene Sibley. Unbloody real. But I digress. Moving on. Okay. So my view of this album, my God. Um, I was able to find a live version, a performance of this album done in its entirety, um, done at 54 West Studios for a program of In Session, where he does the album in its entirety. And Brad Roberts and Gene Sibley make an appearance. And guys, if you know, I thought that Night Music was outside the box. He blew up the box for this album. Like, there's no parameters. Okay. The rules for Joe Jackson is there are no rules. If you like it, if it feels good, do it. That's it. Okay. Um, I really, because, I cheat, I do notes for these episodes, even though half the time I can't read them because I'm blind as a bat, even with my new glasses on. Okay. I wrote the songs down, like, the numbers. I couldn't even do notes because it's all over the place. Okay. It's dramatic. It's heartwarming. It's, um, some would say horrific at times. It's emotional. You cry, you laugh, you scream, you swear, you go all through the emotions, and then in the end, I can't even describe it. Like, it is that it's affected me that much from watching it and from listening to it that I can't even really give you a proper, I want to sound like I'm incoherent, but it is just a beautiful melodic symphonic piece of work that takes you on a roller coaster ride. You don't know whether you're coming or going, but you know what? You don't give a shit. You just enjoy the ride. Whether you end up standing, right side up or upside down, you don't give a shit. You're just enjoying it because it is what it is. There are certain albums where you can put, like we said with Night Music, where you can put in a category. This is its own category. You know what I mean? There's albums, like, okay, like say Zeppelin 4 or A Night at the Opera, rock. This is Joe Jackson. This is its own separate entity, its own category. I think they should create a different category just for this album alone, because it's that good. And the performances from Suzanne Vega, Gene Sibley, Brad Roberts, stellar, amazing, amazing. Gene Sibley has a vocal style that is very rich and warm and inviting. It kind of wraps around you like a blanket when she does her vocals for Envy. The different uh the different sins, quote unquote. um I can't again begin to describe how fantastic this album is. I won't even try because I'm making a fool out of myself by trying here. So I will pass it off to Bill again. All I can say is get this album if you can find it.
Yeah, if you're looking for something a little off the beaten path and adventurous, this is definitely that.
Yeah,
And this, if Night Music couldn't be the first one on Sony Classical, this one, well, it fits even more. I think it. I think. I think he was writing from a classical perspective musically here,
yeah,
and then
definitely.
kind of molding more pop rock type elements into the classical rather than the other way around. And
Mhm.
it feels more natural. I mean, there's you could go back to stuff like say Days of Future Past, the Moody Blues. They're where the rock band and the orchestra they blended well on the album, but they were separate. I mean, I love that album, but that was a whole different sort of thing. I think this is a whole new step in the evolution of classical blending with
Yeah.
more popular music genres here. And it I don't think it does any violence to classical at all. As it's a term I've heard hardcore classical listeners use before,
Hmm.
uh, because of course, I think we mentioned before that Joe was actually classically trained before he ever started having pop success. So
Hmm.
he's not coming at this as an amateur that doesn't know what he's doing. He actually is a classically trained composer and musician. So
Yeah.
in a way, he's going back to the beginning by jumping in classical stuff here.
Hmm.
Um, I think that some people might be offended by a particular song on here. If you know the one I'm talking about, yeah. Right, which is representing anger. That one is very in the midst of more mellow tunes on either side of it. Let's just say it's very rambunctious and full
More,
of words and phrases which are designed to represent, well,
more, yeah, more. I would say more Sex Pistols than Rachmaninoff.
yeah. There are actually three drummers on the track, two rock drummers, and then a drummer who was recorded in New York City out on the streets. I'm trying to remember let's see. I was thinking it had it listed here. Yeah, he was playing Plastic Buckets live in Times Square, and you can even hear some of the traffic noises in the background. Those are actual Times Square traffic noises.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stands out on this album in the way that, say, Not Now John does on Pink Floyd's The Final Cut. It's like, where the hell did that come from?
Exactly.
So if you're
Exactly.
using this album to go to sleep, I wouldn't recommend it. Because if you've nodded off and
Yeah.
that song comes on, you're not going to be asleep for long.
No, either that or skip track 6.
Yeah, program that one out. But no,
Yeah.
I would never recommend doing that either, because this album definitely, it needs to be listened to as a whole. Obviously,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
definitely designed for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you take any of the tracks out and single any one of them out as one piece alone, standalone, you're not going to get the full effect
No.
of this. Um, all I was going to say was, I didn't mean to cut you off. All I was going to say was, um, you mentioned the Moody Blues doing Days of Future Past,
Mm-hmm.
combining the rock with the symphonic. And that's a good analogy because I think for this, he kind of takes that and takes it a step further,
Mm-hmm.
where the line is blurred even more between the two genres. Um, and I think if I was going to swear that, I'm not going to swear. I think it works. I think it bloody well works. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. You know. Um, okay. Here's my question to you, and then I'll shut up for a bit. Do you think this album? I mean, okay. Let me reword this. This album, upon release, reached number 3 in the charts, in the symphonic charts. Do you think that if it was re-released today, like as a deluxe edition or whatever, that it would have the same popularity or the same effect? Or
Sadly, I'm going to have to give the same answer I gave for Night Music. Uh, yeah, I don't know who the audience would be
yeah.
at this point, other than that hardcore full career Joe Jackson fan base.
Mm.
And I say full career because there are there's a subset of Joe Jackson fans, a large subset that only like the early stuff,
Yeah.
that don't really care for most of what he's done past the 80s. I met
Mhm.
some of them going to see him live and tell they were a little disgruntled when they weren't hearing everything from Look Sharp and Night and Day. But that's a whole separate story. Yeah, that's a
Yeah. You know, it's
tangent.
fine. Yeah, it's valid. Yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah, I to the point with your question, no, I don't see it, unfortunately. I'd love to have a deluxe edition of all the bells and whistles, Blu-ray surround sound. You get Steven Wilson in to do his magic on it, or that would
oh
be
bloody hell, he would do an amazing job on this.
yeah. And this is built for surround sound. Oh my god, that would be something. I could absolutely just turn the lights out and yeah,
Uh, yeah. Yeah.
and have a heart attack when Right came on. Yeah.
Guys, listen to the one track, right? And you'll know what we're talking about. Believe me, even when I saw it done live, it was like, what the like what is that? Like it's a standout, right?
Now,
And they all
question: did they have the on the live version? Did they have three drummers?
they had Kenny Aronoff, another drummer, and they had a percussionist.
All right, that fits in.
And
Cool.
they also had two percussionists that the ones that wear the drum around their neck, and they in the marching band kind of. They had two of those percussionists on the drums like that, doing that.
Nice. So he expanded it even further then.
He took this to a new level. I mean, to me, it's almost like we're going off in a bit of a tangent, guys. But sorry about that. So
It's related to the topic.
yeah, to me, he discovered a new genre, or either I mean, or you could say that he took an existing genre and just flipped it on its head. Do you know what I mean? And said, who said you need to do it this way? Who
Yeah.
said you need to go A, B, C, and D? Why not go A, Z, Y, C? Go all over the alphabet. Who says that you need to go step by step? You can jump leaps and bounds and still end up in the same spot where you wanted to be and be all the better for it. That's how I look at
Erase
it.
erase the idea of genres altogether and just make music.
You know, it's
Don't worry about fitting into any particular. Well, this has to be classical, or this has to be pop, or no, just make music.
okay. And I agree with you. I have a quick question for you. If you were to use an adjective to describe Joe Jackson, how would you describe him?
Well, when you said that, just the first word that came to mind is the word that was used so often for David Bowie, chameleon. That was my instant, without putting any in-depth thinking into it. That was my instinctual choice. So I'm going to go with that. It fits Joe just as well as it did Bowie.
It's funny. It's funny they say David Bowie because if you look on YouTube, guys, another plug for YouTube, there's a documentary of David Bowie called Cracked Actor that was done in 74 on the Diamond Dogs tour. And a local news journalist asked David Bowie, what adjective would you use to describe yourself? And he's like, oh, David Bowie.
Valid.
So it's funny that you said that because the only way I can describe Joe Jackson is Joe Jackson. You know what I mean? He is who he is. He's sort of like an entity onto his own kind of thing. I don't know how else to describe him, but
This is Joe Jackson Trio live music, Europe 2010. Uh, this was him and Graham Mabey and Dave Houghton all, and I bring this up because they do a cover of Scary Monsters.
Oh, okay.
And they also do a cover of In Betweenies by Ian Dury and a cover of Girl by the Beatles. The rest are Joe originals, but yeah, he likes to
That's
throw
cool.
in some
That's
some
cool.
interesting covers.
No, that is. Again, I might be repeating myself, but what the hell? I mean, the listening to these two albums, Night Music and Heaven and Hell, it's just it blew my mind. Like I didn't realize that the music existed like this. Um, and it just sort of blew open the doors of what was possible to, in terms of how to, construct melodies and chord progressions and stuff. They're fantastic. So again, thank you for giving me the homework to do this.
Welcome.
And
I'm
to
glad
get
you
you.
enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I mean, believe me, when that CD comes, it's gonna be blasted all over the house. And Mom's gonna go running out in the street screaming with his ears covered. Oh my god!
What are you listening to?
Exactly. It's like this is shit. Okay, but so guys, please go out, listen to these albums. They're on YouTube. You can get these albums on Amazon. You can get Night Music for as low as $4.99 used, or as high as $67.99 brand new. I prefer. I suggest you go for the $4.99.
Yes,
You
that's a
know,
bargain.
that's a real bargain. And Heaven and Hell goes for minimum $11.99 to
Still a
maximum
bargain.
$52.99. So if your local record store has a good back catalog selection and they have a good database where they can order this stuff, get it from them. If not, go on Discogs, go on eBay, go on Amazon, please, or go on YouTube. Check these albums out. You will not be disappointed. So, Bill, what's coming up on our next?
Just a brief detour before I go into that.
Sorry.
This I kind of think of this as his red period because the album that followed up this, his next Sony Classical, is Symphony One,
Yeah.
which keeps with the red and black theme basically. It,
Yeah. Yeah, you're
it's
right.
an all instrumental album. I mean, Symphony One that's on Sony Classical. You can figure, but
Yeah.
we're not going to be talking about this one.
Oh,
This is not my
okay.
choice. So, but I just wanted to point out because I always thought it was cool the way these covers are kind of thematically similar in this particular stretch here,
Yeah.
where he was stepping out of the boundaries quite a bit.
Mhm.
Uh, the final two we're going to be looking at here, I decided about 10 minutes before we started the Zoom here. I've been
That's cool.
I've been deliberating. I'm still not 100% certain, but I'm going with my choices. I'm here trying to put these back in the covers and put them in the wrong places. Maybe I should wait a minute.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right.
We're all
Uh,
family here. No big deal.
well, I already said we're not doing Symphony One. There have been 6 studio albums since Symphony One. I eliminated this one, which also fits that red and black theme. But I eliminated the Duke because, well, it's a covers album. It's all
Yeah.
Duke Ellington songs. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful album, love it, but a covers album is not great to be checking out.
Yeah. So it doesn't fit the criteria. Okay.
Um, these 3, the most recent 3, I love them all to different degrees. Rain in particular came very close, but instead I decided to go with a bit of a theme. Uh, Night and Day 2 which was his last Sony Classical studio album, and Joe Jackson Band Volume 4. And the reason these are make it the theme, other than the fact that they're both gray, this is his gray period apparently. Um, Night and Day 2 is a direct sequel to the original Night and Day, his
I
most
was reading up on
successful
that. Yeah.
album. And Joe Jackson Band Volume 4 is the first band since Beat Crazy to feature the original full 4-man Joe Jackson Band from those first 3 albums.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So essentially, after he did all this adventurous stuff in the Red period in the 90s, he went back to his 2 most successful commercial periods.
Okay.
Now, when you hear that, you might automatically be thinking he's selling out. He's pandering. I'll let you be the judge of that. I have my own thoughts on that, but the reason I picked these, well, aside from the fact that they're both, I obviously love these albums. That's no secret. But is because of that theme, because I always found it interesting that it seemed like he was deliberately reaching back for whatever reason to his past and bringing it into the present day.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well, that would be good. Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. Listening material for me for the next episode. I want to thank Bill Schuster for helping out with this episode and showing me some new music, and hopefully showing you guys some new music to get into. All I can say, guys, is keep an open mind, and you won't be disappointed. That's all I can say. So, also little program notes too. I will be doing coming up tomorrow. I'm doing a show with Peter Kent from the Lizard King channel. We're doing our top 10 Rolling Stones albums. I've got my list ready to go. Hope he does too, if you're watching, Peter. I'm also going to be on Grant's Rock Warehouse. We're taping September 21st. As I said before, we're going to be doing an episode on the Tea Party on their 4th release triptych from 1999 through EMI Canada. Please tune in for that. It should be a good show. And I will be doing, at some point, I will be doing a live album spotlight on Santana Lotus from 1973. This is a massive version I've got here. I'll show you quickly here, guys. Hopefully this is right. Hold on. There we go. Don't know which side is up for this album. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 2017 triple disc reissue Japanese version of Lotus. 34 tracks on this sucker. So I'm going to be doing, there we go. I'm going to be doing a live album spotlight on this masterpiece, some people would say. I would say the same thing. Sometime soon. So it's a lot of music to get through. So that's what's coming up on the channel. As I said to Bill before we started taping, this is my 200th episode.
yes, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You've been
So,
kicking ass here.
well, some people need their ass kicked in terms of
fair enough.
In terms of that. But I really want to thank Bill for helping me for being a part of these episodes, along with Ryan Gavalier. But again, I really want to thank Bill for pitching in and wanting to help out with this and showing me, introducing me to some new music that I really didn't know existed. So, but again, go check out these 2 albums, Heaven and Hell and Night Music. They are available. They're not discontinued, depending where you are. So for Mr. Bill Schuster, I'm Armando Venditti. I will see you soon with another video. Bye for now.